Hello, my name is Mrs. Montgomery. I am a theater teacher. Today we'll be doing an activity that explores light, particularly how light functions and how light is also used in theater or productions. For our experiment today, we are going to need a few supplies. We are going to need a couple flashlights. If you're doing this in your classroom, you might want 1 or 2 flashlights per group of kids. We also are going to want a few objects to light. These are going to be the subjects of our experiment today. To start, I am using some apples. You can use whatever you have in your classroom or around the house that can pick up light when you're shining on it. Later on, we'll be using a couple different objects, but to start, we're using apples. We will be turning off the lights for this experiment to see how light is shown on our different examples here. We will be treating our space here kind of like a stage later on, but you can use anything you have in your classroom or at home to kind of set that stage. Later on in the experiment, we will also be introducing some different colors. To do that, I have a few different objects. So to start, I have a blue glove because it will be able to show light through it, and I have a yellow chips bag. Any semi-transparent material can work. This is just what I had laying around my house, but you can do different materials to show different colors. So let's begin. To start, I'm going to pose my students the question, what do you notice about light? I'm just going to give them the flashlights and the objects to start, turn off the lights, and let them play around with the lights for a few moments before handing them any other materials such as the glove or the chips bag. Here we go. Okay, the lights are off and I have my flashlight. I'm just starting by showing different angles with the apples. Go from the different sides. Maybe going around the back. Maybe something very close up. And then I'll also back up a bit. Maybe I focus more on one apple and then the other. I can also introduce a second light as well. You have multiple students in a group. They can be experimenting with 2 angles and 2 different lights. Now, after the students have had a few minutes to experiment with the lights, that's when I start introducing different colors. To start, I'm going to start with my blue glove, see what it creates. And I might also use my yellow chips bag. After a few minutes of exploration, you can bring the students back together and have a discussion of what we noticed. Let's have that discussion now. After your students have had some time to explore, we're going to want to meet back up and talk about what we noticed about light. Through conversations, the same things usually come up, and that is intensity. How bright the light is or how dim the light is based on your distance. You might be noticing different colors based on the object, such as the blue glove or the yellow chip bag. We also be noticing direction or angle from where we were placing the lights, and we'll also be noticing movement. The light can be stationary or the light can move throughout the space. Our next step in exploring is our second question, which is, why is lighting important on the stage? This will allow the students to think about lighting in a more theater or film perspective. For this next stage of our experiment, I am going to be using different objects. I like to use something that looks a little bit more like a person. For this, I had some pop figures lying around my house. I had my friend Winnie the Pooh and a Santa hat, and I also had Captain Marvel. What's really nice about these is this will allow your students to connect a little bit more to them being on stage. They do look a little bit more person or animal-like. Any object can work for this, maybe a puppet or a stuffed animal. Maybe if you're doing this virtually, they might have those things at home, so those things can work really well. For this one, we are going to be focusing again on the second question, which is, why is lighting important on stage? After you've posed that, let your students have a second round of exploration with the lights and with the different color filters to see what they notice about lighting on stage. I'm going to start with one light. We're going to start by maybe just showing this from different directions. Now, as we're from different directions, you might be noticing some shadows. If I were to introduce a second light, how does that change the shadows? How does that change what we're seeing from different angles? We can also play around a little bit with visibility. What are we seeing on stage? When we're right close next to one of the figurines, are we seeing the other one? If we are seeing it, how much of it are we seeing? Who's in focus right now? If I'm close up, I might get one feeling. If I back up, I might get another. We can also start showing different colors. On stage, if I'm using the color blue, what might I be feeling from blue? Maybe it's cold, maybe it's nighttime, maybe it's showing sadness. I might be changing the mood of the scene. Now I'll start again with the yellow. The mood might shift. Instead of sadness, we might be seeing happiness. It also might be representing something. The yellow might be representing sunshine, because we can't really have sunshine on our stage. After your students are done exploring the second part of your activity, we're going to re-examine the question, why is lighting important on this stage? Let's start by talking about what we see, what is visible. Lighting is important because as an audience, we need to see the actors. Now, if my light was on, we might see the whole stage. If I don't want the audience to be focusing on them, maybe we're having a blackout or transition, that would be a time to turn my light off. We also want to make sure that we are representing things that aren't on stage, that are kind of modeling the reality. For example, the yellow color modeled the sunshine, which we can't really have on stage, and the blue color could model the rain or could model that it's cold. We can also focus a bit on focus. If I have one character I really want the audience to focus on, maybe I'm shining my light on that one character, kind of like a spotlight. We also want to talk about a little bit about mood or feeling. If I think my main character is being sad, I might want to wash the stage with a blue light to show their sadness, or a yellow light to show their happiness. In your classroom, when you're doing this experiment, you might want to have the students do it in groups, or if they're a younger age, you might want to do it as an entire class together. If you are doing this experiment virtually through a computer, you can have students experiment on their own with their own objects. You can do it as a whole class together on camera. You can even have students submit videos or photographs answering those different questions or exploring the different things that we know about light and how it's used on stage. Whatever way you think is best for you and your students is the right way to do this experiment. Thank you for watching, and I hope we learned a little bit more about lighting on stage today. Thank you.